Alright, so let's look here at number 8, where we're solving this radical problem when the radical is written as a rational exponent right here. So I like to rewrite that. Let's divide by 2 to start with, so we get this radical expression by itself. And then 2 divided by 12 is going to be 60. So 2 divided by 120 is 60. 2 divided by 8 is 4. So I get a 64 here. Now, you could rewrite this as a radical, right? It would be x plus 5 to the third power, and this would be the fourth root of all of that. But there's no need to do that. It's easier to just multiply to raise this whole side of the equation to the exponent of 4/3. So you can see then how these are going to cancel out. But if I do that to the left-hand side, I need to do that to the right-hand side as well. So on the left-hand side, remember these exponents, when you raise a power to a power, these multiply. So 3 over 4 times 4 over 3 just becomes 1. So this becomes x plus 5 to the first power. But we don't need to write that 1. We're just going to drop it here in a second. I have to now evaluate 64 to the 4/3. So remember, the numerator of that fraction is the number that's inside the radical, and the denominator is the index of the radical. So I'm doing the cube root of 64 to the 4th power. Okay, so I can drop that 1. We don't actually write it, so I just have x plus 5 over here. Now, is it easier to raise 64 to the 4th power, or is it easier to take the cube root of 64? I think that's a pretty big number, so let's take the cube root of 64 first. So we're going to do the cube root of 64, and then we'll raise that to the 4th power after we've taken the cube root of 64. Because you've memorized this, because I know you have, you should know that the cube root of 64 is actually just the number 4. So this just becomes 4 to the 4th power. And you might need a little bit of help doing 4 to the 4th power, but you know that 4 squared is 16. So if you did 16 times 16, that's going to give you 4 to the 4th power. And 16 times 16, I think you should have, I think that was also on the sheet for you to memorize, is 256. So 4 to the 4th power is 256, and then you just subtract 5. X equals 251. And then you can, of course, plug that back in there to check. 2 times 251 plus 5 to the 3/4 equals 128. So 251 plus 5 is 256. If you want, you can divide by 2 there. So 256 to the 3rd power, when we're doing the 4th root of it, is supposed to give me 64. The 4th root, you can check this on your calculator, the 4th root of 256 is 4, and 4 cubed does in fact give you 64. So we know that 251 is not extraneous.